Missy Marlowe has the high score of the day on the uneven bars with a 9.800. She is our current leader. Anxiously waiting her score. Missy would love to walk away with a gold medal. Her birthday is Tuesday. Meanwhile, Sabrina Marr, the gold medalist in the all-around competition, waiting for her score, and it is a 9.800. It has just been posted. So Missy Marlowe does win the gold medal. Sabrina Marr will take the silver, and Luisa Riviero will take the bronze. And right now, let's go to Bart Connor with the gold medal winner.
Missy, congratulations. I know you were disappointed in your all-around performance, but today you were only in one event final, but you won the gold. It had to be a great win.
Yeah, I had all my concentration ready right for bars, and I didn't do as well as I would like to in all-around, so I'm glad I could do it here.
As we take a look at the routine, tell me what was going through your mind throughout the exercise.
I just constantly kept telling myself to let us swing and to not worry about it. Just let myself do what I knew I could do.
You have a very smooth style. Is that important to you?
It's very important. I think it makes, the whole routine look cleaner for the whole part, so.
And of course, the landing, you were worried about sticking that landing. You took a couple of steps there. Did you think you might have lost it?
No, I would like to stick it, but I was happy on a whole with the performance, so it doesn't bother me too much.
Well, what's next for you?
We're starting as soon as we get back to push for Worlds. So.
Well, we wish you the best of luck, Missy.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Tim?
All right, Bart, and the final standings then on the uneven bars. Melissa Marlowe wins the gold. Sabrina Marr finishes second, takes the silver, and Luisa Riviero finishes third and takes the bronze. And coming up, the dreaded balance beam coming up a little bit later. And we'll go back to Brent Musburger right after this message.
With the final day of the Pan American competition is underway. Two countries have dominated this event since it began a little over 2 weeks ago. The United States still leads the total medal haul with 163 golds to Cuba's 69. But when you break it down, and when the United States has had to go head-to-head with Cuba in the boxing ring, on the baseball field, you can see that these two giants of this hemisphere are dead even with 40 wins apiece. And today they'll come together in two other events. One of them is in the boxing venue, where young Todd Foster will attempt to snap the one with no love lost for the United States. You don't have to understand Spanish to make out the word imperialist and to know that America is perceived here as the enemy. The Cold War rhetoric aside, bear in mind that Cuba is also a tropical island, and the sights and sounds emanating from here are also those found throughout the Caribbean. It would be pretty easy to take a camera and a microphone, drop in out of the sky, and pass judgment on a complex and mysterious country such as Cuba. So much of what I have to say really must be considered superficial. However, here are some observations of a first-time traveler to Havana. It struck me right away when I got off the airplane and started into the town. The age of the American automobile. This is though we stopped manufacturing them during the Revolution back in 1959. But yet you can find American-made products in this city. Go downstairs in your hotel, pick up the shampoo. Made in the United States. Or go out to the ballpark and take a look at the bats used by the Cuban national team. Made in the USA. But there is another country whose presence is all over Havana, and that's the Soviet Union. Go down to where the boats dock. The hammer and sickle flag will be flying. Take a look at the cars in the street. Soviet-made Jeeps, Soviet-made trucks. As for the people themselves, I see no great signs of enormous wealth, and yet I see no signs of great poverty either. And perhaps that's the way Fidel Castro wants it. The one question you cannot get a satisfactory answer to, and perhaps the reason why, is that there is none. And that's what happens to this island and its people after Fidel Castro. And no wonder. He is their one and only leader, and his public appearances make Cuban crowds swoon. And when he met with the visiting U.S. baseball team last month, they too seemed caught up in it all.
To shake hands with him is awful. It's a nice feeling.
New Year's Day, 1959. Fidel Castro came to power at the front of a revolution that overthrew a government friendly to the West. He was installed as the head of a new regime, and from the start, he demonstrated magnetic qualities that few world leaders could match. An example, the time he charmed a skeptical United Nations press corps on a visit to New York City.
You have hopes of bettering relations between your country and the United States through the UN session?
Yes, but you cannot ask me that. Go to ask the government of the United States.
Throughout the Western Hemisphere, the basic policy of the United States is to resist communist regimes, especially those so close to our shores. That's why President Kennedy ordered the Bay of Pigs attack in an attempt to overthrow Castro. And when the Soviet Union tried to install nuclear missiles in Cuba, the U.S. response was swift.
To halt this offensive buildup, a strict quarantine on all offensive military equipment under shipment to Cuba is being initiated.
The U.S. won that showdown, thanks in part to Guantanamo Bay, an American military outpost that we maintain on the island even to this day. But U.S.-Cuba relations remain strained, and America's anger heightened when criminals and other of Castro's undesirables were found to be among the boat people in the Freedom Flotilla. From the Cuban perspective, the anger is mutual, as I discovered in talking to some people in a Havana city park. After receiving a denouncil of capitalism from this young man, I came back at him with a simple question.
Would you like to see for yourself? Would you like to see what the United States is like?
¿Cómo es los Estados Unidos?
Me gustaría verlo.
I'd like to see it.
You see, there's the rub. They might hate our government and our economic system, but as a people, they like us. They like the Havana Hilton so much that they nationalized it and renamed it the Havana Libre. Ernest Hemingway's old books and his favorite haunts are still in vogue here. And if you can get in, ask the bartender to fix you a mojito. Never mind the recipe. And the big movie hit this summer is To Live and Die in L.A. But while Michael Jackson's music thrills them, the people still move to a distinctly Cuban beat. Upbeat are the rumblings of the Cuban economy, which falls far short of being self-sufficient. Now, as then, the sugarcane harvest is the key. But a country cannot survive on sugar and cigar exports alone. And with Western economic sanctions against trade with Cuba, the Soviet Union and its allies must make up for shortages on big-ticket items. Go to a local supermarket and you'll find some strange brand names, like this ketchup from Bulgaria. I doubt if it's 57 varieties. And I have no idea what this product is. But for all the hardships and scarcities, the people swear they have no complaints.
We have everything here. And it's very important because we're very united.
Americans might ask, how can one be satisfied earning a typical factory worker's wage of $40 a week? But maybe that explains why Cuba's housing stock is old and well below our standards, or why any pre-revolutionary goods are preserved at all costs. There is more freedom of movement in Cuba than in the Soviet Union. No internal passports needed here. But for those who seek greater freedoms based on economic and individual liberty, their travels take them to Miami, Florida, Little Havana. And there, among the escapees from an island just 90 miles away, another portrait emerges, one that portrays Cuban life in much harsher terms.
To me, communism is under a lot of suppression. I don't think the people that live there are able to live to their fullest.
Cuba had no liberty, no nothing.
So there you have it, a country locked in seemingly perpetual struggle with the U.S., but one with which we share so much, including a love of baseball. It struck me watching Fidel Castro take in a game in Havana that after close to 30 years in power and having served through 7 American presidents, we still know so little of what will happen to his people when age or events finally overcome the man who has put his own stamp on the society of his native land. But as you move around the island, it becomes obvious why the Cuban athletes are so successful here. They have training programs for the youngsters over there in volleyball and track and field. You couldn't go any place without some kind of a major event for the youngsters going on in that island nation. And over right now at gymnastics, as a matter of fact, Kelly Garrison-Steeves of the United States is ahead in the balance beam competition, but chasing her for the gold medal, Elsa Chavez of Cuba. And we'll come back and have that competition for you when we continue here on CBS in just a moment.
Welcome back to the Hoosier Dome for the finals of the women's competition in individual events. We have completed 2 of the 4 events. We are now in what they call their 7th inning stretch here at the Hoosier Dome as they play La Bamba. These are the standings for the balance beam as we go into the finals. Kelly Garrison Steeves of the United States in first place. Elsa Chivas is in second place of Cuba, and Tanya Guia of Cuba is in third place. Now there's Sabrina Marr of the United States is in fourth place, followed by the Canadians and the Guatemalans. Now, a reminder that in the individual event finals, the top 8 athletes on each apparatus are selected to compete, determined by the compulsory and optional scores. However, each country is allowed only 2 gymnasts per event. So once again, the United States, who had most of the top scores, will be limited to just 2 performers on each apparatus. Now let's go back to the vault, which was the first apparatus. Cuba had a 1-2 finish on that vault. Laura Rodriguez won the gold with the highest score of today's competition at 9-9 on that vault. And she set the record, 19.582, a Pan American Games record.
And it was a beauty. Round off on layout Sugar of the full twist with a perfect landing.
So Laura Rodriguez won the gold, Luisa Prieto of Cuba took the silver, and Christy Phillips of the United States won the bronze. Then on the uneven bars, the United States took the top 2 spots. Melissa Marlowe won the gold. Sabrina Marr won the silver, followed by Luisa Ribeiro of Brazil for the bronze. Now let's go back and take a look at Missy Marlowe's performance on the uneven bars.
Another outstanding performance for Missy on this event. Beautiful line all the way through the routine. The judges really rewarded her for good form, good execution.
Now, one of the major stories here has been the performance of Christy Phillips. Christy qualified for only 2 events here in the finals events, the vault and the floor exercise, and she fell on her landing, Kathy, on the vault, just as she fell from the beam both yesterday in the all-around competition and Thursday during the optionals.
Christy's spirits have been a little bit down over the past couple days, and I think that was the reason behind the breaks. It's unfortunate she's not in balance beam. She's an excellent performer on that event.
We are going through a warm-up period now on the balance beam as you look at Kelly Garrison Steeves of the United States. And although Kelly Garrison Steeves says that this is her favorite event and she is by far the most steady of the group on the balance beam, it seems as if all the United States performers have struggled on the balance beam here in the competition of the Pan Am Games.
A lot of the United States girls, this is their first time to compete on the podium, which is, it's a little bit different up there. The beam's a little shaky, it's a little higher than normal. They just have to get some more experience and adjust to that.
You can see that Kelly Garrison Steeves is very concerned about her warm-up period where she actually lost her balance on the beam and then fell during the dismount. She is the oldest member of the United States women's team. She is 20 and a student at the University of Oklahoma. Now this is Sabrina Marr, the winner of the all-around competition yesterday, as she talks to her coach, Greg Marston. Entering the finals of the balance beam now, Kelly Garrison Steeves, you just saw her warm up, is in first place. This is a combination of the compulsory and optional routines that they carry here into the finals, followed by Elsa Chivas and Tanya Guia. This is Elsa Chivas of Cuba. Chivas is the oldest of the Cuban women. She is 22 years of age. She also is the most experienced Cuban gymnast in international competition, having performed countless times in Moscow, Romania, Hungary. She's also performed in the Pan Am Games in both '79 and 1983.
With all that experience under her belt, that should help her here in finals on the balance beam. She's very accustomed to the pressure. She's very sharp in her movements. Round off, layout, step out. A very difficult pass on the balance beam. Full turn right to a needle scale.